When we talk about database management systems and the need for databases, we invariably have to talk about digital disruption. As the smallest memory unit is called a bit. So 8-bit makes 1 byte and 1024 bytes make 1 kilobyte. So similarly, 1024 kilobytes make 1 megabyte, and then higher is gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte, exabyte, zettabyte, and then yottabyte. At the moment, the world has collected data in the zettabyte area. In 2008, Google was said to process around 20 petabytes of data a day. So that's the amount of memory that's being processed by Google. The data-driven world is always on. It allows us to track, allows us to monitor, allows us to listen, watch, and learn. So these are the attributes of memory. International Data Corporation predicts that the global data sphere will grow from 33 zettabytes, which was in 2018, to 175 zettabytes by 2025. So there's an exponential growth of memory. A key driver of this data explosion is the cloud platform or the cloud architecture. Enterprises continue to pursue cloud, both public and private, for data processing needs. There are cloud data centers, and they're becoming popular for data repositories. In 2025, International Data Corporation predicts that 49% of world's stored data will reside in public cloud environments. So the cloud interacts with various hardware like smartphones, laptop, networks, then tablets, mobile phones, servers, and so forth through network connections. And these network connections, through various middleware, they get connected to other hardware. And when enterprises collect their data, collect memory from these events that they encounter that is relevant to the enterprise, this data can be stored in the enterprise because there's so much memory or so much data that the enterprise collects relevant to the enterprise. It will collect this data, it will outsource this data into a cloud warehouse. Now, when it says a cloud warehouse, it's actually a physical infrastructure where the data is being stored. It's not a hardware. It's not on the cloud itself. It's not on a virtual platform. So the connectivity of the smart devices are the phones, televisions, thermostats, because they get connected to the cloud architecture. And they also can connect with social media, which also interacts with the cloud architecture. Social media usage in 2018, in just 1 minute, there are Twitter users sent 473,400 tweets. The Snapchat users shared 2 million photos. Instagram users posted almost 50,000 pictures. LinkedIn gained 120 new users. This is just in 1 minute. So this is the amount of new data that is being produced, or new memory that is being produced. So the Internet of Things, so also facilitating the data collecting and data sharing among various devices. Internet of Things are various devices or hardware that connects with the cloud architecture through a network connection, and this network connection will then connect with other hardware and through the cloud architecture, and then it will collect data on this Internet of Things that are connected to the cloud. For example, if you wear a watch that has internet connection or has a mobile phone that has internet connection, and wherever you go, it can detect the location and collect data about the movements. Because as you move, you carry the phone or carrying your watch with you, and it knows your location and it can collect those data. And those data, the memory of your movement, would be collected by, for example, the watch manufacturer or the mobile manufacturer or outsourcing data company that wants to collect data. And this data could be very useful in finding out about those purchasers' movements. Database management systems can capture this data for enterprises. And because it's about memory, it's about data, analyzing this memory or the events that are collected can allow to make accurate decisions and predictions. Every enterprise tends to generate data because it engages in various events and can also buy data. There's unimaginable data quantities, and there's various data sources that an enterprise can buy. And data comes in various languages and formats. And data are structured and also unstructured. It can be well formatted, or data could be not so well formatted. So how can data help enterprises? There are 4 ways it can help. First is it can create new opportunities. It can show customer preferences and allow enterprises to make recommendations about product features to customers. It would allow to communicate through social media to preferred customers. The second is to make process improvements using data for the internal processes. The third is to get involved in data analysis. By analyzing data, the enterprises can come up with customers' dislikes and likes and offer products accordingly. And when enterprise collect data, It also can monetize this data because data has value, memory has value, and it can sell those data to another enterprise, another party, and earn money. But there are three challenges that enterprises face with this data. Data out there do not follow business rules, and it's difficult to know that they're accurate and consistent. Second is databases are designed to provide sufficient protection and partitioning and visualization data, but we need to make sure that these data are accurate and consistent. Third is databases are available and they're capable of doing various things, but there are various databases that are available. So which one is the correct database becomes a challenge for an enterprise. So in accepting data into the enterprise, invariably enterprise has to go through some control mechanisms and have some selective way of accepting data. It is done through a database engine. It creates, it reads, updates, and deletes data in the database. The business events data has a role to play in building an enterprise database. Accounting systems are built on underlying databases, and there are three aspects that are important. First are the events. There are the process data that comes into the enterprise. The second is that this data that comes into the enterprise gets stored in a database. Third, that this data that's in the enterprise has to be used up for reporting purposes. There are three functions that are conducted in data management. Master data. For the master data, that's the data that's in the enterprise, in the database, enterprise has to create new data that comes through the business events, and then also maintain those data by updating the existing data or deleting the existing data. Second are the business events. The events that enterprises encounter, like sales events, then purchasing events, leads to recording data. Third is when data are collected, they go into a database, to a master database. But in addition to that, for any contingency purposes, it must have another place where the data is kept. It's called the data warehousing. And this data warehousing is kept and used for data mining and analysis. There are events that take place in an enterprise for value creation. The events are such as sales, purchases, then human resources like recruitment. Then for each of these aspects of event, there are activities that take place. And these activities, when they are grouped together, they become processes. Or sale, order processing, and so forth for sales. And this data that comes from different processes, like order processing, then the delivery processing, and so forth, they get this data are then integrated to make a system. Each system will enable different types of enterprise decisions. So if you look at an enterprise data, it allows us to make better decisions. There are various systems using different intelligent agent software. So there's a database, and then there's a warehousing data for contingency purposes. Then there are business events taking place that updates the database and also updates the warehousing data. To support analysis of this data, enterprises use intelligent software or sets of instruction software, and these software, depending on the purpose of their use, they're called decision support systems, executive information systems, group support systems, and expert systems. So there are two ways to process event data. Transactional events are captured as accounting data. They are generalized for data capture. So the event data that's been processed, they can use an application approach for database management, or it could use a centralized approach. In the application approach in database management, applications hold this data in separate files. For example, the sales program will have the sales data, and the inventory program will lead to inventory data. In the centralized approach, the database holds all the processed data as integrated files, not as separate files, but as integrated files. For example, Oracle would hold all these as integrated files. So a graphical illustration of application approach to processing data is, if you take a sales program, it will have a sales order, then inventory, and then the customer. But each aspect of the events here, sales order, inventory, and customer, will have each master data file. And similarly, the inventory program will have the inventory order file, inventory file, and the inventory master data file. So it will have different master data files, and they are independent. Whereas the centralized approach will integrate the data captured through sales program and goes to one place, which is the data management software, and then the inventory program that captures the data of inventory will go into the data management software, and through the operating system of data management software, it will go into a database. And it would be a central database. And whenever that, for reporting purposes, the database is being inquired, it will now go back again through the operating system into the database management software, and then it will use various other instructions in it to prepare reports or to make various queries that users make inquiries into the database. The application approach to database management has two disadvantages. The first disadvantage is data redundancy. That means because application approach maintains separate master data files, and there could be more than once a data field is entered into a given database. And there could be errors due to duplicate entries, more than one entry been done in different databases. There could be errors, or it could lead to frauds. The second is different business rules would also apply to different applications. The order master data, sales order master data, would have certain business rules. And those business rules would be different from returns database. And therefore, it could be incompatible. The centralized database approach, the data is being kept in separate, but still they're integrated files. That means the files can talk to each other. The way the files are talking to each other is because there are common fields or common identifiers in each of the files. And it processes data kept in relational data tables. What it means is the relation is about these common identifiers that it has in different tables. And these different tables are established through common identifiers. If I take a more kind of a straightforward approach, a common identifier in these three different integrated relational databases could be a customer identification number. But in more complex and complicated relational databases, it could be that two databases are having customer number, but second and third would have another common identifier, but which is not present in the first. So when we make a query into some data, that we have to then make a combined query. That means there are more than one common identifier if we want to tap into all three, if we want to talk into all three databases.